So how did you get to be with Justin Johnson this day on November 17th, 2021?
Uh, we knew that, they had a hit on Dolph and them head or whatever, so.
Who had a hit on whose head?
Big Juck had a hit on Dolph head or whatnot, so.
How do you know that Big Juck had a hit on Dolph's head?
Quick had told me about it, Quick, and I was in being just.
How much money was it supposed to be?
$100,000. That's the number the streets kept whispering, a six-figure bounty to take out young Dolph. Rumor has it that Anthony Big Juke Mims allegedly put that money on Dolph's head. And then, years later, someone allegedly put a bounty on him. But the moment that truly shocked the entire hip-hop world came later, when Yo Gotti reportedly came face-to-face with the man accused of being involved in his brother's death inside a cold prison visiting room. Nobody expected what happened next. This isn't just a rap beef story. This is about empire, loyalty, money, and blood. One of the most explosive sagas Memphis hip-hop has ever seen. To understand how it all spiraled this far, you have to go back to the beginning. Yo Gotti, born Mario Centel Jiden Mims, grew up in the rough Ridgecrest apartments of Memphis, a place where survival came before dreams. In the late 1990s, he was grinding the old-school way, recording underground mixtapes and selling them out of car trunks. Projects like From the Dope Game to the Rap Game started buzzing in the streets long before mainstream radio ever said his name. Years of hustle finally paid off when his 2012 album Live from the Kitchen pushed him onto the national radar. Then in 2016, everything changed when his hit Down in the DM exploded across the culture. Suddenly Yo Gotti wasn't just a Memphis rapper anymore. He was a national star. But what really separated Gotti from other rappers wasn't just the music. It was the business. In 2012, he launched Collective Music Group, better known as CMG. Over the next decade, the label turned into a powerhouse. Artists like Moneybagg Yo, Black Youngsta, Glorilla, and ESTG all came through the CMG machine. Major partnerships with Interscope Records gave the label serious industry power. And Gotti himself expanded beyond music, investing in real estate and even buying ownership stakes in the MLS team DC United. While others were chasing hits, he was building an empire worth hundreds of millions. But every empire has someone behind the scenes. For CMG, that person was Big Juke, Gotti's older brother. Known around Memphis as a powerful figure, Big Juke handled the street-level side of the business. Talent scouting, promotions, connections, the kind of work that never shows up on official paperwork. To many in Memphis, he wasn't just part of the machine. He was the muscle behind it. People respected him, feared him, and whispered about his influence. Those whispers became louder once another powerful name entered the picture. Young Dolph. Born Adolph Thornton Jr., Dolph built his own movement through Paper Route Empire. While many rappers chased major label deals, Dolph proudly stayed independent, turning his label into a symbol of ownership and self-made success. That independence reportedly created tension with CMG after Dolph allegedly turned down a deal from Yo Gotti's camp around 2014. What started as business disagreement quickly escalated into one of Memphis' most talked-about rap feuds. Diss tracks began flying back and forth. Dolph's record play Wit Yo Bitch took direct shots at Gotti's credibility, and the tension spilled beyond music. In 2017, Dolph survived a terrifying attack when his SUV was hit with more than 100 bullets in Charlotte. Later that same year, another shooting targeted him in Los Angeles. And once again, he survived. Rumors flooded the streets about who might be behind it, but nothing was ever proven. Through it all, Yo Gotti kept mostly silent, famously saying in a viral interview, "I don't go back and forth on the internet. You're never going to win." For years, the tension simmered. Fans debated it, bloggers analyzed it, and the rivalry between CMG and Paper Route Empire became one of hip-hop's most closely watched conflicts. But nobody expected the tragedy that came next. On November 17, 2021, young Dolph walked into Makeda's homemade butter cookies in Memphis to buy cookies, something he had done many times before. This time, he never made it out. Gunfire erupted, and Dolph was killed inside the shop. The news shook the entire hip-hop world. Memphis erupted with grief, anger, and endless speculation. Then the investigation began. Arrests were made, courtrooms filled, and as the details started coming out during the trials, the names being mentioned sent shockwaves through the culture. Suddenly the rumors, the street whispers, and the years of tension between camps didn't feel like distant rap beef anymore. They felt like pieces of a much darker story that had finally exploded into the open. And that's when the situation took an even more shocking turn, because the violence didn't stop there. Years later, tragedy struck again when Big Juke himself was killed in Memphis, adding another deadly chapter to a feud that had already claimed too many lives. In the end, what started as competition between two powerful rap camps turned into one of the most tragic and complicated sagas in modern hip-hop history. A story of ambition, loyalty, revenge, and the dangerous line where music and the streets collide.
Alright, so the next one from Justin Johnson to TZ is Dolph rented the whole studio out for the rest of the year. Call a joke, let's make some. Right? That's what it says?
That's what it says.
And that's July 9th, right?
Correct.
Okay. Because on the slideshow we talked about reaching out to Joke on July 31st, but here they're saying, call Joke, we're about to go shoot somebody.
That clip right there exposed the connection. Justin Straight Drop Johnson wasn't just some random shooter. According to what was revealed in court, he was allegedly in direct communication with Anthony Big Juke Mims. The defense attorney broke it down during the hearing, pointing to text messages and phone records that prosecutors say linked Johnson directly to Big Juke. Those messages and calls were presented as key pieces of evidence, building the argument that the attack may not have been random, but part of something planned at a much higher level.
It shows on 11/16/2021 at 17:37, 15 hours. Looks like a 331 second outgoing call from Justin Johnson to Anthony Mims.
Right. And you did that much nicer on your slideshow. I just sort of went in and downloaded the actual CDR thing to show all the parts and like.
A 331-second phone call connected Justin Straight Drop Johnson to Anthony Big Juke Mims, better known as Big Juke. According to information discussed in court, the call happened on November 16, 2021, just one day before young Dolph was killed. The conversation reportedly lasted about 5.5 minutes, raising serious questions about what exactly was being discussed so close to the time of the murder. Prosecutors pointed to that call as part of a broader timeline they believe connects the individuals involved. But investigators say the situation went even deeper than a single phone call. Text messages that surfaced during the case allegedly contained coded language, suggesting that certain conversations may have been intentionally disguised, adding another layer of mystery to what prosecutors argued was a carefully planned operation.
This is a text from Justin Johnson to Jook.
He testified about that, please?
Yeah, sure. Who are the texts from?
So it's from Justin Johnson to Anthony Mims.
And I know there's more than one text, but I'm concerned about the one on record.
I'm starting with the first one.
Text messages reportedly sent from Justin Straight Drop Johnson directly to Anthony Big Juke Mims became a major focus during the case. Prosecutors argued that those communications pointed to possible planning and coordination behind the killing of young Dolph, a plot they said could shake Memphis to its core. During court proceedings, the defense raised another key question: whether investigators had ever attempted to interview Big Juke about his alleged connections to the suspects. The response that followed immediately drew attention inside the courtroom, leaving many observers wondering how deeply those relationships had truly been examined during the investigation.
So we've already discussed all the hardware store and all the other stuff. With regards to Jook, did you all ever try to interview Jook?
Yes.
When did you try to do that?
When we executed a search warrant on his phone
Okay.
when he was at the airport.
Okay. It wasn't annotated that you had talked to him anywhere in the police force, so lead detective that you guys never reached out to him.
Investigators did execute a search warrant on the phone belonging to Anthony Big Juke Mims at an airport. However, according to testimony presented in court, authorities never formally brought him in for a full interview regarding the case. That detail quickly became a major talking point, raising questions about why Big Juke wasn't questioned more extensively despite the alleged connections being discussed during the investigation. Those unanswered questions would continue to hang over the case. Then the courtroom heard from Cornelius Smith, one of the men who admitted involvement in the killing of young Dolph. When Smith took the stand, his testimony immediately grabbed everyone's attention. During questioning, prosecutors asked Smith how he became connected with Justin Straight Drop Johnson on the day of the murder. His answer stunned the courtroom, revealing details that prosecutors said helped explain how the events of that day were set into motion.
So how did you get to be with Justin Johnson this day on November 17th, 2021?
We knew that, you know, they had a hit on Dolphin head or whatever, so
Who had a hit on whose head?
Big Jook had a hit on Dog head or whatnot, so
How do you know that Big Jook had a hit on Dolph's head?
Quit had told me about it, Quit, and you know what I'm saying, being just
How much money was it supposed to be?
$100,000.
$100,000. That's the figure prosecutors say was at the center of one of the most shocking allegations tied to the killing of young Dolph. According to testimony discussed in court, Anthony Big Juke Mims was allegedly connected to a $100,000 bounty placed on Dolph. A claim that prosecutors argued turned a long-running Memphis rap rivalry into something far more deadly. During the trial, Cornelius Smith testified that he learned about the alleged payment through Hernandez Govan, who prosecutors described as the middleman responsible for linking the shooters to the promised money. According to Smith, Govan played a key role in connecting people from the streets to the individuals willing to carry out the attack. The trials that followed the killing of young Dolph pulled back the curtain on the darker side of the Memphis rap scene and left much of the music industry stunned. Testimony and evidence presented in court painted a picture of how personal rivalries and street conflicts can escalate into organized violence, blurring the line between success in the music world and dangerous criminal activity. The center of the prosecution's case was Smith's testimony. Appearing in court in September 2024, he admitted in chilling detail that he was one of the men who fired shots during the attack that killed young Dolph. Smith testified that he was paid $40,000 for his role, an amount many observers noted was shockingly small considering the life that was taken. According to his testimony, Smith's actions were driven by a mix of personal struggles, including drug addiction and the grief of losing his own child. Prosecutors argued that his vulnerable state made him the kind of person who could be manipulated or recruited to carry out a violent act for money. Smith went on to describe meetings, phone calls, and alleged financial arrangements that prosecutors said helped trace the path of money from organizers down to the individuals who carried out the shooting. By presenting phone records, messages, and transaction details, the prosecution attempted to show how the operation was allegedly structured, with money and instructions moving from higher-level figures down to the shooters involved in the attack.
Right.
And you testified earlier about this, just to be clear, Govan, before they hit on Dolph, before you did it, had already negotiated with you to get $10,000.
Yeah, for me, and $10,000 just...
The money trail became one of the most critical pieces of the case. Prosecutors argued that financial transactions pointed directly toward a larger conspiracy surrounding the killing of young Dolph. According to testimony in court, $10,000 payments were discussed for both Cornelius Smith and Justin Straight Drop Johnson, with the money allegedly moving through Hernandez Govan, who prosecutors described as the key middleman in the operation. Investigators suggested these payments were connected to the much larger $100,000 bounty prosecutors claimed had been organized by Anthony Big Juke Mims. In court, the prosecution framed the case as a murder-for-hire scheme, arguing that Big Juke sat at the top of the chain while others allegedly handled the coordination and execution. Prosecutors also claimed that even after Dolph had been killed, conversations continued among those involved about the remaining payments, suggesting that the people connected to the attack were still focused on collecting the money they believed they were owed.
Now, I want to be clear about, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but I want to make sure $10,000 to you talked about it before, and then he came back to you after the fact and asked you about the 10 because he wanted his money, right?
Even after the killing of young Dolph, prosecutors said conversations about money allegedly continued among those involved. According to testimony, people connected to the attack were still discussing how the promised payments would be divided, treating the murder like a business transaction where everyone expected their share of what was described in court as blood money. But the case took a complicated turn once defense attorneys began cross-examining Cornelius Smith. They aggressively challenged his credibility, highlighting his documented struggles with drug addiction and arguing that his memory and judgment could not be trusted. The defense also raised questions about alleged financial connections surrounding his legal representation, suggesting that outside influences might have affected his testimony. Their strategy aimed to convince the jury that Smith's story could have been shaped to protect certain individuals while placing blame on others. Despite those attacks, prosecutors relied heavily on other pieces of evidence, including phone records, text messages, and testimony from additional witnesses, to reinforce their timeline. They argued that, taken together, the evidence created a network of connections that supported their version of events. The trial of Justin "Straight Drop" Johnson eventually reached its conclusion on September 26, 2024, delivering a verdict that sent shockwaves through the rap scene in Memphis. Johnson was convicted on multiple charges, including first-degree murder, conspiracy, and being a felon in possession of a firearm. The judge handed down a sentence of life in prison plus an additional 35 years, effectively ensuring he would spend the rest of his life behind bars. Johnson's legal team quickly filed an appeal, arguing that issues with evidence and courtroom procedures had affected the fairness of the trial. But for the moment, the conviction remained in place. As Johnson was led out of the courtroom in shackles, many in Memphis began asking a tense question. Would the cycle of violence continue, and would someone seek revenge for Dolph's death? Another major figure in the case, Hernandez Govan, faced trial the following year. On August 21, 2025, the proceedings took an unexpected turn when Govan was acquitted of all charges connected to Dolph's murder. Ironically, the same testimony from Smith that helped convict Johnson ended up helping Govan's defense. By pointing more directly toward Anthony "Big Juke" Mims as the alleged mastermind, the defense argued that Govan had been made a scapegoat while the person they claimed was truly responsible was already dead. The verdict left many observers frustrated, but it also underscored a harsh reality. Big Juke would never face trial for the allegations surrounding the case. Before any courtroom could weigh the accusations against him, his own life ended violently. On January 13, 2024, around 4:15 in the afternoon, Big Juke was shot outside the Perignon's restaurant and event center in Memphis's Hickory Hill neighborhood. He had reportedly just attended a repast, a gathering where family and friends come together to honor someone who has passed away. Surveillance footage from the scene captured a chilling sequence. Two attackers reportedly stepped out of a white Mercedes-Benz, armed with rifles, and opened fire in broad daylight. Dozens of rounds were fired, striking Big Juke multiple times before the gunman fled the scene. He was rushed to St. Francis Hospital, Memphis, but doctors were unable to save him. Investigators described the shooting as a targeted attack, not a random act of violence. Police released images of the suspected vehicle, the white Mercedes, but no suspects were publicly identified. The killing immediately sparked speculation across Memphis about whether it was retaliation connected to the earlier murder of young Dolph. Later, in interviews after his acquittal, Hernandez Govan spoke about the moment he learned that Big Juke had been killed. Another dramatic twist in a saga that had already reshaped Memphis's hip-hop scene and left multiple lives destroyed.
Yeah. Where were you at when you heard the news that Juke had passed away? And how did it affect you?
I think I was riding down the street. I got a call, and I just was like, damn, I hated it for Big Daddy, I hate that for anybody that I know,
Even Hernandez Govan, the man once accused of acting as the middleman in the killing of young Dolph, later said he was shocked when he heard that Anthony "Big Juke" Mims had been killed. In interviews after the incident, Govan described how Big Juke had reportedly stepped outside during a gathering following a funeral, often called a repast, a moment meant to honor someone's life. According to reports, Big Juke went outside for a smoke break, and moments later gunfire erupted. In that instant, his life was cut short in broad daylight. The same streets where he had built influence had now claimed him as another victim. As of February 1, 2026, no arrests had been announced in connection with Big Juke's killing. The Memphis Police Department has confirmed that the investigation remains open, though officials have withheld many details, citing concerns about leaks. That lack of information has only fueled frustration within Memphis and sparked endless speculation online about who may have carried out the attack. In the immediate aftermath, rumors spread across social media pointing fingers at figures associated with Paper Route Empire, including speculation about Key Glock, Dolph's cousin, and one of the label's most prominent artists. However, none of those claims have ever been officially confirmed. In early 2026, another name briefly entered the conversation when B.O. Lil Kenny, whose real name is Kenneth Watson, was arrested after a high-speed chase involving drugs and firearms. Social media quickly exploded with theories claiming the arrest might somehow be connected to Big Juke's death, though authorities never publicly linked Watson to the shooting. What remained clear was that the violence surrounding the feud between Collective Music Group and Paper Route Empire had already left deep scars on Memphis's hip-hop scene. The rivalry between Yo Gotti and young Dolph, once played out through music, diss tracks, and industry competition, had evolved into something far darker. The legal aftermath of the murder continued to unfold. Justin Straight Drop Johnson, who was convicted in connection with Dolph's killing, began serving a life sentence plus additional years after the 2024 verdict. His case remained a focal point in discussions about the feud, especially as details from the trial revealed how deeply connected the people involved were through neighborhoods, friendships, and street affiliations across Memphis. Court testimony from Cornelius Smith helped outline those connections in detail. His statements described how individuals within the network knew each other through shared neighborhoods and long-standing street ties. Those connections, prosecutors argued, helped investigators piece together the relationships that ultimately led to the deadly events of November 2021. The broader impact on Memphis has been devastating. The city, long known for producing legendary artists like 3-6 Mafia, 8 Ball and MJG and Project Pat, has also struggled with rising violence connected to street conflicts. Some artists have reportedly distanced themselves from the city entirely, worried about becoming the next target in an ongoing cycle of retaliation. For many observers, the tragedy surrounding young Dolph's death and the later killing of Big Juke represents the darkest side of the intersection between street loyalty and the music business. What began as a rivalry between two powerful rap camps eventually spiraled into a chain of events that destroyed multiple lives and shook the Memphis rap community. Today, the debate continues across the internet and throughout the industry. Some believe the violence was the inevitable result of years of escalating tensions. Others argue that the conflict should have never gone beyond music in the first place. But one reality remains impossible to ignore. When rivalries cross the line into real-world violence, the consequences reach far beyond the people directly involved. The deaths, the prison sentences, and the unanswered questions have left a permanent mark on Memphis. And as the city continues to grapple with the aftermath, one haunting truth remains. In conflicts like this, there are no winners. Only lives lost, families grieving, and a community left trying to break a cycle that has already taken far too much.